here we are in my allotment, and I've set up 3 Dalek compost bins. Hopefully this one is the perfect mix, and I'm going to show you what I consider to be a good mix. I've got some very coarse woody wood chip in here, which is going to provide structure and aeration, because the other stuff I'm putting it in is just my kitchen caddy here, which is all the stuff out the kitchen, general peelings, eggshells, bits of paper. You can see there's banana skins, there's a bit of bread. Try not to put in cooked food, but a little bit, it's not going to be a problem. And then I want to mix that up well, layer it in with more woody stuff. Make sure that that's going to provide the airways throughout it. Okay. So there's quite a lot of wet, sloppy stuff in there. I try and level it off as much as possible. And as I say, mix it, keep mixing it with that stuff. You can use scrunched up paper, a certain amount of that as well, but it's going to lose its structure. So you do need to have some chunky stuff, ideally, to help keep the airways there. You can have old dry plant stems, all that kind of thing as well. So this one is I've been doing for a couple of months now, and hopefully is a good mix of stuff. This one here is mostly dry materials, paper and plant stems, that kind of thing. And that one's just squidgy food waste. So stuff from the kitchen, all that kind of thing, all the peelings and that kind of thing. So what I would like to do now, hasn't been done yet, camera's on it, is to lift this up and show you what it's like. And hopefully this will be quite nice now. Let's have a look. If I can lift it up, should come up like a sandcastle. Here we are. Well, that's looking pretty good. You can see that there's a nice structure through it. There's various bits of plant growing. There's a bit of bindweed there, which shouldn't have got in there. Some bits of potato growing. But generally speaking, it's been quite warm, and it's looking like it's starting to make compost. Obviously the bit on the top, the most recent bit, needs a lot more composting, but down here just in the last couple of months it's starting to turn into something resembling compost, and there's even some worms in there. I haven't put any worms in here. They will find your compost, and they will, if they like it, they will be in there and they will breed up. So there we go. So that's looking good. So this one was too dry. It's got ants in it. I can see the ants already, which is a sure sign that it's too dry. But actually, doesn't look too bad, does it? I put quite a lot of wood chip in there. You can tell it's too dry. Look, it's unlike the other one, which was really quite... But it is starting to compost down there. This one is just falling apart and is far too dry. So that's okay, because we can just mix that into another compost heap. This one here is probably going to be the most interesting. It's just been pretty much food waste, stuff from the kitchen on its own. Yuck. That's very smelly too, isn't it? Tell the smell straight away. That's really gone anaerobic. You can see the oozy, juicy stuff down the bottom there. It's really not very pleasant at all. It's kind of, it looks like it's been preserved, doesn't it? Like a jelly or something. And it's not composting at all. It's just sat there, going very anaerobic and smelly. So you can see the clear difference here, really. Too dry, then the camera can't really see around this side, but around this side of it, there's masses and masses of kind of paper that's not done anything. It will compost eventually. The worms are in there, look, the worms have started getting in. With enough moisture in there, enough water, it will eventually break down that. But this one is just sodden and wet, and it really needs breaking up and aerating. So if we mix those two together, we're going to get a good mixture. So what I could do now is just combine them, make quite a mess here, but put them all back into one Dalek bin, and then it will start to compost like this one has.
With the particularly wet example, Nicky, obviously you suggest use of wood chip to dry it out and get the right mix. Are there any other sort of carbon-rich, dry sort of ingredients you could add to it? I noticed maybe cardboard could help.
The cardboard's great. Cardboard's really good. I've put some cardboard in this one. The trouble with cardboard is once it's got wet, it'll soak up the moisture. Once it's got wet, it's got no structure. There's no air in there, and you get this squidgy ball, don't you? Which is nothing. There's nothing in. There's no air that can get in there.
Sodden cardboard
so really,
has little value.
Really, you need a mixture of. You find plenty of things like dry plant stems in your garden. You can save them through the year. Save them up. Put them to one side. They'll store for forever because they're dry and woody, so they'll be fine. And as long as you mix that with it, you've got little snorkels of air going through. Here's some. I just picked these up off the path. If you don't tidy up your garden in the autumn, you're leaving nice habitats for insects anyway through the winter, and then come the spring when things start growing, start collecting them up, or mixing them through your compost as you go. That's what I do, and it's very simple actually to find dry stuff. There's plenty of twiggy stuff. You can use hedge prunings, all your kind of prunings, something that's a bit tougher. You don't need a lot of it, and especially when it's combined with the cardboard, you're getting the absorption from the cardboard, and you're getting the air channels, the snorkeling through and breaking it apart. And if you really can't get enough of it, then you've got to get in there with a fork and dig it over and aerate it and add more paper and cardboard then. But as I can say, you really need something structural. If the worst comes to the worst, go out and buy yourself a bag of bark chips, and then you can always sieve it out at the end of the composting process.
Would you suggest there's an ideal ratio between the sort of dry carbon-rich material and the more wet nitrogen-rich material like food waste?
It kind of depends on exactly what the stuff is, but very roughly, rule of thumb, is sort of about 50-50, really, by volume. So I had a nice, I had a kind of bucket full of that stuff, perhaps a bit, and I probably had a bucket full of that stuff, roughly the same volume, really. But it does depend. I mean, there was quite a bit of paper and other bits in with my kitchen stuff anyway, so I didn't put quite so much of the hard, chunky stuff in. It's something you get a feel for in the end, and you just sort of know when it's happening right, really.
So it's advisable each time you put food waste into your Dalek or your compost bin, then you would follow that up with some wood chip or dry material, so you're really forming a layer, but then you'd also mix it up as you put the two in, so they're mixed together.